This is a web-scale analysis of the community origins of image memes. Now, as you're browsing the web, you might come across an entertaining meme like this, and you might wonder, well, where did this come from? Well, this is essentially our research question. Which communities online are originating the content that goes on to be popular? Where does our internet culture come from? Now, if you track the sociology literature, you know that there's essentially a division into the periphery and core of the network of the web that might describe this. And if we follow that literature, it would argue that generally it's the periphery that tends to create a lot of innovative culture. Things like jazz arising in Black communities in New Orleans, or the emo fashion movement, or Hollywood film hits, or lolcats and rickrolling and so on. All of these pointing toward the periphery as being the sources of our internet culture. But so far, we haven't been able to really replicate this because we've mostly focused on studies of individual communities like Twitter or LiveJournal or Facebook or Reddit. And these are really valuable studies, but they don't allow us to answer this ecosystem level question because each community is itself only a small part of our cultural ecosystem, and cultures tend to self-isolate. So we have this open question. Where is everyone importing our culture from? Who are the cultural exporters? Who are the cultural importers? It's really unanswerable if we're only looking at a single community. So this study is a web scale study of image meme diffusion and origination. We're focused on image memes because they're essentially a dominant cultural icon on the modern web. And what we're going to do is capture basically every image meme that was posted to a meme community online for a month and study where they came from and where they went to. So we're going to use a few terms here. I'm going to, for the moment, refer to community interchangeably with platform, essentially any top-level domain on the web. Could be large, like Facebook, could be small, like hidden lol. We're going to change that definition in a little bit, but folks, stay on this one for now. Each community has a network centrality measure. This is where smaller means more peripheral, and larger means more core. You might have heard of measures like PageRank. We're using a variant of that called harmonic centrality, which is that's a little bit more robust to spam and manipulation. So drawing on this literature, our hypothesis is that essentially there's a negative correlation when you control for community size and activity. To put it another way, the hypothesis says that peripheral subcultures are driving cultural innovation. That's what we expect to see. So how do we get every image meme posted to a meme community for an entire month? Well, we're going to start with a crawl. What we're going to do is we're going to start with a seed set of communities, Reddit, some Instagram feeds, 9gag, and they're going to watch every single thing that gets posted to these communities. Every image could be a bunch of different image memes. We then are going to feed those to a Cloud Vision API. This one has the benefit that it's going to give us links to anywhere else on the web that it's seen an image that looks a lot like that one. That produces another set of communities that we can then loop back and continue a scrape until this all converges, finding basically every place that's posting content that later gets diffused to another community. We then need to actually capture everything that those communities have posted over a whole month. So what we're going to do is build this ourselves. We're going to do a high frequency scrape of every community's content. This is going to produce not just the original memes, but anywhere else it might have diffused. Then we're going to pass these to a Cloud Vision API. And we need to confirm that these memes were originated within the month of our study. So if it says, I haven't seen this before anywhere, then we keep it because we now know that this image that we just saw is new. It's a new meme template that no one's ever seen before. Otherwise, we toss it. So for anything we keep, we're now going to group instances of that same meme template together using phash and dbscan. What that essentially does is it allows us to produce everything clusters of memes that are the same meme template. We're going to consider the first community that posted that template as the originating community, and all these other ones as diffusions of that meme somewhere else. So now we can attribute those memes to the place that they originated. So here's everything we just did. We now, having grouped those all together, we're going to say this community was the first one that posted that meme template. And this allows us to measure something, which is how many times each meme template was eventually posted elsewhere on the web. How many different communities did this go to? How many times did it show up? So 4chan maybe originated the following number of meme templates and it had that many shares. Facebook might have a different number. That's the outcome that we measured. So this produced nearly 1 million memes, over 500,000 meme templates, about 1% of which diffused to at least another community. And here's what we see. We see that the periphery is actually not driving this conversation. Most of the image memes that you see online are first posted to mainstream communities, not to the periphery. And if by doing a zero inflated negative binomial regression, we're able to get a little bit into the mechanism here. What it says is that the core is more likely to diffuse. You're more likely to get picked up elsewhere, but they diffuse less widely. So the periphery is, when it does go viral, it goes more viral in some sense, but the core is more likely to get at least one other place to pick it up. They're winning mostly but just by pushing volume, more and more content. Now, is this the same stories we would see within a community? So I just made an argument for an ecosystem level. If we'd written a traditional paper that's focused just on one community here, Reddit, would we see the same thing? What we're going to do is we're going to recurse in and treat each subreddit as a community within Reddit as the ecosystem and see what happens. On one hand, the story replicates that by far most of the content's coming from the core of Reddit. Not only is most content coming from central communities like Reddit, most of the content that's getting diffused is within Reddit from the most core subcommunities in Reddit. The periphery is again driving less than we'd expect. But we find that the regression coefficients reverse, which suggests that the mechanism at play is a little bit different. So here, instead of being more likely to diffuse further, what's happening is that, being more likely to diffuse, it's actually less likely to diffuse, but if it does, it goes further. So the story is different, suggesting different mechanisms at web scale. What we do find is that no matter who you are, core or periphery, you're drawing a lot of content from the core. Everyone is drawing a lot of content from communities like Facebook, Reddit, and so on. Now, could we be missing communities? Absolutely. We ran a sensitivity analysis to simulate this and found that we would have needed to miss a lot of extremely popular communities in order for it to break this result. But if they were extremely productive and well-known, then we probably would have included them. So we think this is unlikely. We did only track communities that were majority memes, with the exceptions of a few communities, the Donald/B and /Paul, that were included for continuity with prior work. But we're not tracking, say, politics communities that are also creating memes here. And our English-speaking cultural frame may not generalize. So when we come back to this question of looking at keyboard cat and saying, where did this come from? The answer today is, well, probably Reddit. And actually, probably one of the most popular subreddits on Reddit, which means that at some level, even though we all feel like we're taking things from the periphery, we're being really cool, we're all basically just wearing Hot Topic t-shirts. What does it mean for us that cultural production online is getting increasingly centralized, that peripheral subcommunities are themselves even drawing on the audience that's available to them on these large platforms? Are peripheral cultures thriving or being squeezed out? What's the story here, and what ought we as designers to be doing about it? So I just want to close by pointing out that there were things we could only see by being a web scale study here. Compared to single platform studies, these mechanisms may differ at the ecosystem levels. And we have to start asking, what else are we missing when we look only at single communities or platforms? So I'll stop here. Thank you so much to our funders, Durim, Morina, who led this effort. And thank you. Looking forward to your questions.